Hello, everybody. This is Paul with Torah Life Ministries, and we are doing another episode of the Suffer Well Devotional series. And today we're going to be talking about a title. It's called These Minor Things. We're going to be talking about the tongue. The tongue, this small part of our body that can create so many situations as we think about these things. So let us read the devotional, and then we're going to discuss the power of the tongue. So we start off here, and it says, let no corrupt communication, foul or polluting language, nor evil word, nor unwholesome, nor worthless talk ever proceed out of your mouth, but only such speech as is good and beneficial to the spiritual progress, edification of others, as is fitting to the need and the occasion, that it may be a blessing to give grace, Yahweh's favor, to those who hear it. Ephesians 4, verse 29. Corrupt is as in corrupt communication, is in this case modifier, an adjective, describing the thing as in and worthless words, the type of language speech. These are dirty, foul, unkind, rotten, useless, unfit, poor quality, putrid, worthless words. And yes, this is certainly an accurate description of the command, depiction of the command. But let us take a slightly different perspective, and instead of modifying the thing, the communication, let us speak to the action of what is happening. We are reminded of James 2:18, where we are taught that simply describing faith is not where the power is, but the power is in the action, the doing. The Hebraic perspective is also and always in the doing. Hear, O Israel, Yahweh our mighty one. Yahweh is one. You shall love Yahweh with your mighty one with all your heart, your mind, your will, your intentions, your emotions, and with all your strength. Deuteronomy 6, verses 4 and 5. The Hebrew hear means to listen and obey, to hear the words and then show oneself obedient to them. This action is where the power is. Let's therefore take another look at the idea of corrupt, this time from a Hebraic action perspective. What is the power in the corrupt words? Not just a juicy description of what corrupt words are. The words are not simply foul and useless. They process power that triggers decay, rotting, wasting away, melting, dwindling, and dissolving. They cause a fall. It is not simply that these poor quality words illuminate from the lips. It is that they create death. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they who indulge in it shall eat the fruit of it, for death or life. Proverbs 18:21. Again, we are reminded of James. Even so, the tongue is a little member that boasts great things. See how great a forest a little fire kindles. And the tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity. The tongue is so set among our members that it defiles the whole body and sets the fire the course of nature, and it is set on fire by hell. It is an unruly, even full of decay and poison. James 3, verses 5 and 6 and verse 8. Corrupt words cause the fall. Did the Most High really say not to eat? You will surely not die. The woman you gave me, the serpent deceived me. Genesis 3, verses 1, verse 4, verse 12, and verse 13. The Adam in us knows that it takes only one wrong thought for the entire cascade to begin. Fallen thoughts are followed by falling words, which precede fallen actions. The trigger decay, rotting, festering, wasting away, melting, dwindling, and dissolving of everything around them. Corrupt words start and avalanche of destruction. What the mind thinks, the tongue professes, and the physical world obeys. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. Excuse me. And they who indulge in it shall eat the fruit of it, for death or life. This is a never-ending pattern that must be understood and dealt with. Acceptance of his holy standard comes by inexcusable reality that there are no idle thoughts, no minor words, and no insignificant proclamations. It is only the corrupt self that allows you to think that thoughts and words are minor things. If I don't murder or commit adultery, I'm good. Yet you hate your brother in your heart, or call him a fool, you have already murdered him. If you undress that woman with your eyes, or make lustful comments, you have already committed adultery in your heart. Matthew 5:21-30. There are no idle thoughts, minor words, or insignificant proclamations. A great price was paid to save your mind. There is nothing worse than minimizing what that sacrifice meant to Yahweh. Giving yourself room to have a sloppy tongue is like trampling his son underfoot and counting his shed blood as common. Hebrews 10:29. It would be better that you had not been born than to live your thoughts and words like they don't matter. Man shall not live on bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of the Most High. Matthew 4:4. Your words, like his, have power of life and death. Why not choose life? Ezekiel prophesies to the dry bones. Hear the word of Yahweh. And they lived and stood upon their feet, an exceedingly great army. Ezekiel 37:4-10. Every thought matters, loved one. And now it should be obvious that every word that illuminates from those thoughts also matter. Every word. So think life, and they speak life. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Words, and what we speak are so important. And I will tell you the most common way people use words negatively in a perverse way is to themselves. People every day make proclamations about themselves and they don't realize it, but when they think about what they're saying and they say certain words and they're literally putting a curse upon themselves every single day. Using negative words like can't, sorry. These are negative words. We must choose positive words because they do have power. Words have power. Proverbs 11:9 says, evil words destroy one's friends. Wise discernment rescues those of Elohim. Proverbs, which is another word for wisdom, in 15:4 says, gentle words brings life and health. A deceitful tongue crushes the spirit. Proverbs 16:24 says, kind words are like honey, sweet to the soul and healthy for the body. And Proverbs 18:21 says, death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit. We must understand this. We must get it. We must comprehend the importance of the power of these words and what we must do and how important they are. So first, we end up cursing ourselves by speaking such negative words, and then we often speak negatively to others. But we are called to build each other up with our words and what we say. This is what we must do. Proverbs 18:4 says, a person's words can be a life-giving water. Words of true wisdom are refreshing as a babbling brook. And Proverbs 12:18 says, there is one who speaks rashly like he trusts of a word, but the tongue of the wise bring healing. This is what we get. The words really come out of our heart, and they really speak the condition of our heart. And I talk all the time about being emotionally stable and not living off our emotion, not making major decisions when we're emotionally upset. I have a whole teaching on that we did in a previous devotional about not making major decisions or any decisions when we're emotionally not just upset or just based on our emotions. Well, I would suggest to you when your emotions are running high, we don't make any sound and don't speak anything, because the words that come out of our mouth when we're emotionally frustrated can start a fire, can create so many things. We must be at a peaceful place when we speak words and think about what we're speaking about. Words reveal the condition of the heart, and if the heart is unrest or something is not where it should be, the words we speak are not words that are edifying to each other, lifting each other up, kind words. Then shut up. Shut your mouth and keep your mouth shut. You'll be better off for it. Proverbs 25:18 says, telling lies about others is as harmful as hitting them with an axe, wounding them with a sword, or shooting them with a sharp arrow. Luke 6:43-45 says, for it is no good tree which produces bad fruit, nor, on the other hand, a bad tree which produces good fruit. For each tree is known by its fruit. For men do not gather figs from thorns, or do they pick grapes from a briar bush? The good man out of the good treasure of his heart brings forth what is good, and the evil man out of his treasure brings forth what is evil. For his mouth speaks from which his heart is filled with. We must guard our mouth, but this is very important that I want to say. There are so many scriptures in the Bible about our words and the words we speak, the words we speak. But remember this, communication, 90% of communication are not words we speak. It's how we move and what we do. That's communication. So if we're even speaking a word, but acting like it doesn't make a difference, or it's a big deal, or saying it with a certain attitude, is just as harmful. But even more harmful and just as harmful is we put our words on paper and we write them down. Do you know when the scribes wrote the scriptures, if they were writing the Bible out, and if they spelled Yahweh's name wrong, they had to rip it up, or they had to stop writing that Bible. They had to bury it or throw it away. In no way did they want anything to do with this word that was written incorrectly. And for every single moment, people are sending texts and emails, and they're speaking words, sorry and can't, cursing themselves with words like sorry and can't. And they're speaking words to others and about others and saying so many things that are negatives. You need to look over your text. You need to look over your emails. You need to think about what you're writing, not just what you're saying. It's just as a guilty thing that's causing a problem. Positive, kind, gentle words. Positive, kind. Think about Yeshua. Think about Yeshua and how he lived and the things he said. And we need to think about these things. And we need to guard our mouth carefully with each word that comes out of it, each thought that comes out of it, each keystroke we type. We need to think about that. Proverbs 21:23 says, whoever keeps his mouth and his tongue keeps himself out of trouble. James 3:5 says, in the same way, the tongue is a small thing that makes makes grand speeches, but the tiny spark can set a great forest fire. James 1:26 says, if you claim to be righteous but don't control your tongue, you are fooling yourself and your religion is worthless. Proverbs 17 verse 18 says, even a fool who keeps silent is considered wise. When he closes his lips, he is deemed intelligent. And Titus 3 verse 2 says, to speak evil of no one, to avoid quarreling, to be gentle, and to show perfect courtesy to all people. Wow. To speak evil of no one, to avoid quarreling, and to be gentle, and to show perfect courtesy to all people. Wow. To avoid quarreling. I see so many people on Facebook getting into these quarrels, going back and forth with people. If somebody says something negative to you, be gone. Stop it. We don't need to be replying to these people, and keeping the fire burning. Forget about it. Move on. Psalms 34:13 says, keep your tongue from evil and your lips from speaking deceit. And Ephesians 4:19 says, let no corrupting talk come out of your mouth, but only such a thing as good building up and fits the occasion, that it may give grace to those who hear. Yahweh's word is so powerful. The words he speaks to us through his scriptures. We need to think about this and think about the value of words and think about the value that comes from this. Matthew 4:4 says, but he answered, it is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes out of his mouth. Psalms 119:105 says, your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. Matthew 24:35, it says, heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. The lingering effect of the words, they stay there and they ponder, and people think about what people are hearing. 1 Corinthians 1:18 says, for the word of the cross is folly to those who are perishing, but to us who are being saved, it is the power of Elohim. For one person might hear something and not think about it, but another might think about it different. We need to consider all of these things, all of these words we are speaking, for one day we will be held accountable for all these things. It says in Romans 14:12, so then each one of us will give an account of himself to Yahweh. It says in Matthew 12:36, but I tell you that every careless word that people speak, they shall give an account, for it is the day of judgment. For me is all before appeared the judgment seat of Yeshua, so that each of us may receive what is due for the things done while in the body, whether good or bad. 2 Corinthians 5:10. We must have self-control over our tongues. We must. And that's one of the first signs of evidence that when we change as a person, when we get the Rahadak HaKodesh, that spirit in us, that drives us to live according to Yahweh's guidelines and instructions, one of the greatest forms of a witness to others is in our speech. For you could be a non-believer cursing and shouting and just speaking about people and gossiping and all these things. But when that spirit touches you and your voice, everything, your countenance and your words change. They change. And that's the first thing people notice. This doesn't sound like the same person. It doesn't sound like the same person. Colossians 4:6 says, let your speech always be gracious, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how you ought to answer each person. And John 15:3 says, already you are clean because the word that I have spoken to you. And then Matthew 15:35-37 says, a good person out of his good treasure brings forth good, and the evil person out of his evil treasure brings forth evil, I tell you. On that day of judgment, people will give you an account for every careless word they speak. For by your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned. Listen, the enemy wants us to speak foul words. The enemy wants us to be caught up in conversations and to speak words with people that are unruly and people that don't even deserve to hear us. That's what the enemy wants. And he's going to try to tempt us. He's going to try to tempt us. He's going to try to take control over our tongue. We can't let that happen. We can't let emotions move us. If you're in an emotional state, shut up and be quiet. Keep your mouth quiet. Don't speak. It says in Psalm 34:13 to keep your tongues from speaking evil and your lips from telling lies. Remember. Proverbs 26:20 says, without wood, a fire goes out. Without gossip, a quarrel dies down. A quarrel that dies down. Yeshua was a wonderful peacemaker. He was wonderful. His words were so perfect for every situation. Situations where it's just amazing how his words came out and just complexed the sages and the Pharisees when they tried to condemn him and accuse him of things. He didn't stand up there with a tongue trying to condemn them. No. He spoke words that left them bewildered. If I say this or if I say that, they couldn't even answer him. They didn't even know what to say. There's power in words. There's power in words. Proverbs 21:23 says, whoever watches his mouth and tongue keeps himself from trouble. Keeps himself from trouble. Wow. Wow. You think about how Yeshua handled his words, the wisdom in that. And you have to understand the reason why he was able to do that, because the words are connected to your heart. There's a heart and word connection there. It's connected to your heart. The words that come out of your mouth, they come from your heart. That's why Yeshua said it's not what goes into the body that counts, but what comes out of the mouth. It says in Matthew 12:36, but I tell you that every careless word that people speak, they shall give an account on that day of judgment. This is really an important lesson. The tongue is not just some little simple thing that it's a word, whatever, so what? No, it reveals what you're feeling. And I know we can get in an emotional state and feel things that we shouldn't be doing or anything like this. And I'm not talking about those situations where you're in your conversation and you say something and then right away you regret it. You're like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. I'm not just talking about that. I'm talking about situations where you're saying stuff and you don't even realize you're saying something wrong. You do it so much, it reveals no edification of who you are in a wonderful Messiah. You don't even know you're doing it because you're doing it so much. And that's what the enemy wants to tempt you to do. And that's what he does. James 3 verse 8 says, but the tongue can no man tame. It is an unruly evil full of deadly poison. It's so true. But that also says in Proverbs 13:3, whoever guards his mouth preserves his life, and who opens his lips comes to ruin. I myself, when I hear someone curse, right away I look at them different. I don't care who they are. I don't care what they think. I don't care what they've been through. I don't care anything. When I hear a person curse, they immediately drop in my standard of where they are spiritually. Immediately. There's no excuse for cursing ever. Ever in life, there's no excuse for cursing. It's just not there. But when I hear people cursing, I think, wow, where does this person think they are? And what did this person think they're doing? There's absolutely no excuse for that. Romans 3:13-14 says, their talk is foul like the stench from an open grave. Their tongues are filled with lies. Snake venom drips out of their lips. Their mouths are full of cursing and bitterness. James 1:20, if a person thinks that he is religious but can't control his tongue, he is fooling himself. That person's religion is worthless. Ephesians 4:29 says, don't use foul or abusive language. Let everything you say be good and helpful, so that your words will be encouragement to those who hear them. Psalms 39:1 for Junarith, the choir, the director, a psalm of David. I say to myself, I will watch what I do and not sin in what I say. I will hold my tongue when ungodly are around me. And then we see Psalms 34:13-14. We already said it once. It says, then keep your tongue from speaking evil and your lips from telling lies. Turn away from evil and do good. Search for peace and work to maintain it. And Proverbs 21:3, watch your tongue and keep your mouth shut, and you will stay out of trouble. We get it? Do we get this? And then Proverbs 4:24, which I want everyone to take hold of, says, remove perverse speech from your mouth and keep devious talk far from your lips. We must understand this. We must understand, and we must pray for help with the profanity that comes out of so many people's mouths today. For it says In Psalms 141, verses 1 and 3, "O Yahweh, I cry out to you. Come quickly. Open your ears to me. When I cry out to you, let my prayer be accepted as sweet smelling incense in your presence. Let the lifting of my hands in prayer be accepted as an evening sacrifice. O Yahweh, set a guard at my mouth and keep watch over the door of my lips." Yes, keep watch over the door of my lips. I want you all, as you hear this today, to think more about this, to think about this, and to be careful with the triggers, the emotional side of things. Keep your mind set on the things above and not on worldly things. Understand, no matter what, people are going to entice you to try to speak things you shouldn't speak. Remember this. Jeremiah 10:2 says, "This is what Yahweh says. Do not learn the ways of the nations or be terrified by signs of the heavens, though the nations are terrified." And not just others, but yourselves. You know, what do you do if something slams on your foot and you hurt yourself? What words coming out of your mouth? Think about that. There's no excuse for cursing ever, ever, ever. And it reveals, not only does it edify our Creator when you speak with wisdom, but it reveals your true heart when you curse. It says in Ephesians 4:24, "Put on a new nature, created to be like godly, truly righteous, holy." There's very few people I've met in life that never curse. That never curse. And when I meet them, I think, wow. The control that this person has over their tongue goes far beyond any act I've ever seen by people. It's amazing. It's amazing. Fine. If you're emotionally disturbed, if something's not right, just be quiet. Don't say anything. But to curse and scream and talk gossip and yell and all this other stuff, that's not of our Creator. He doesn't want us to do those things. Praise a wonderful Creator for this wonderful day, folks. I pray this message really touches your heart and you get it and you understand it, you believe it, because it is true. Everybody, suffer well, suffer well. We'll be back tomorrow with another devotional. Until then, everybody, speak pleasant and sweet words. Have a blessed day, everybody. Yahweh be with you this wonderful day, and shalom, shalom.